back to the Talent Table with Elena and Christy. In honor of Veterans Day tomorrow, we've invited some very special guests to the table today. We have Megan Philpot and Mike Baumann, USO Transition Specialists. Megan and Mike both have ties to the military and are joining us to give us some tips on transitioning from the military to civilian careers. Welcome to the table, Mike and Megan.
Thank you.
Thank you, Christy and Elena.
Welcome. We're excited to have both of you here, Mike and Megan, today, and really want to get into your expertise for transitioning military professionals. But Mike, you have a really interesting short story. Can you share a bit about how you became a USO transition specialist?
Yeah, absolutely. So I was actually a combat medic in the Army for 6 years. I deployed to Iraq in 2005, 2006. When I got out of the Army in Hawaii in 2011, I made that transition and then ended up moving back to the mainland. That transition was a little rough for me. It was kind of sudden. I was actually medically discharged and I was kind of fighting it, but then they said no. So they won that battle. So I ended up transitioning and I took about 6 years kind of just doing different things, working different jobs, moving to different cities, exploring, which was great. However, I wasn't focused on that transition and wasn't really making any progress actually in my life that I felt like I probably should have. I finally settled down here in Chicago, started in a business program at DePaul University. I'm almost finished with that. I'll graduate in March. And when I started at DePaul, I got back into the military community. I am the vice president of the Student Veterans of America chapter at DePaul. I also started working as a veteran certifying assistant, processing GI Bill certifications with the VA. And I realized I missed that camaraderie and family feel that I had when I was in the military. That's really when I was looking for working with military again. I learned of the USO Pathfinder program that helps transitioning service members, active duty service members, their spouses, any National Guard or reservists. And it was just something that I was I would like to help. Like I said, I had that transition. It was a little rough. I wasn't prepared like I should have been. I didn't do that research. I didn't know what was available to me. So for me to be here now and be able to help people in that transition means a lot to me.
Thanks, Mike. That's awesome. I appreciate you sharing your story and how it might be different than others just because of the way that you transitioned out of the military, but I'm sure that your story still helps in your role at the USO. So I know for myself, I was a military spouse in a past life. So, and I did the whole trailing spouse thing. And I know that there's a ton of resources out there for spouses. You just really have to dig in and find them. I was able to use the CAC to pay for some of my undergrad, which was awesome. And Megan, I know you're a spouse too. So can you tell us some tips and maybe your perspective as a military spouse, what kind of resources are out there?
Yeah, absolutely. And I too have kind of an interesting journey to a military spouse. I was well into my career. I was in my late 20s when I became a military spouse, so it's a little different than probably the typical story. But I think one thing I learned was just that you don't have to give up your hopes and dreams for your career just because you are going to have that 2, 3, 4 year choppy resume. I think it's definitely worth it for me personally to continue on in my career. And just like a service member, be prepared. Know what your resources are. Like you said, there's a ton of resources out there. Know what they are. Make sure you use them. And just, don't give up on what you want just because you're going to be, all around the country doing different things. Maybe there's an exciting new career. I didn't come from this space, but I love being here and serving veterans and spouses now.
Wonderful. That is fantastic insight, Megan, because that goes probably for job seekers in general. Just because you come from a unique background or you've had a unique path does not mean that those job opportunities aren't out there for you. And when you're talking or speaking of military spouses, sometimes you just need a little extra help. So when you're working with military professionals, they do have unique backgrounds and different career trajectories. What are some of those resources that you can share with viewers to help them help with their transition efforts?
Yeah, so there's a ton of resources there for the transitioning military group, right? And to navigate to navigate those can be really difficult. Sometimes you might search things and Google won't bring up certain resources that are there that are available for you, right? So like the USO Pathfinder program, for example, is a program that will help those transitioning service members up to a year before they get out, and then a year after they get out, you know. So they're there to help navigate those resources and tailor the resources to each individual person, right? And then, you know, making sure that you're ready, like I said before, make sure you do some research, make sure that you work on your resume. There's Hire Heroes USA, which will help you build a resume, will help translate those skills that you might not know how to translate. And then something like Hiring Our Heroes, that one is more like they have a resume engine. And with that, you can kind of put in your job code or whatever it was that you were in the military, and it will help translate skills for you in that resume engine. So just utilize the resources that are out there and don't be afraid to ask questions.
Yeah, absolutely. I would just add, you know, like Mike said, be prepared, start early, use the resources. Pathfinder can help you navigate them. A couple others, I would, you know, installations typically have some support for education, employment. Maybe start there and see what they have, you know, get a hold of Pathfinder, get a hold of the installation and see where you need to go from there. But at least that way you're on the right path toward being prepared and being ready when that last day does come.
Wonderful. Fantastic. Megan and Mike, thank you so much for joining us today and sharing your expertise. I know this is a short conversation had so much value, and it's going to help a lot of people and point them in the right direction. We will for sure link all of these great resources below in the comments. To all of our service members, active and retired, thank you so much for your service. We appreciate you taking time today to join us at the table again. As always, please like, comment, and share this video with your network so we can help others in their job search. Thank you and see you next week.
Bye.